October caddis are still around, and I'm going to show you how to tie a big, nasty October caddis in a Goddard Caddis style. That's a spun bug made of deer hair or elk hair. The tighter you can pack it, the more it floats. It's a really cool way to tie caddisflies. It's one of my favorites. It's kind of an old school method, but this is like a newer take on it, definitely, by mottling some colors together and putting a cord of chenille on the bottom. So I'll show you how it's tied. It's pretty simple. It looks really complex, but it's pretty much just like 1-2 steps you repeat over and over till it's done. So we'll take a closer look in a second. I'll explain all the stuff you need for this guy, and we'll get to tying it. It's a pretty easy one. So taking a closer look at this guy, like I said, it looks super complex, but it's very simple. The wing and body are made of elk and deer hair, a mottled mix to get that October caddis color look. We're using a bunch of different, we've got some spinning cow elk, we got some dyed elk, and then we've got some deer hair just for spinning and stuff. So it's just kind of a mix of what I had around. I think if you did all elk, that would be best. But we've got a mix of a lot of different colors of hair, mainly just to get the right color profile, right? So October caddises, their wings are kind of like a brownish tan, and then their underbody is like a more orangish tan, and that's why I have this corded up chenille in here. This is Semperfli dirty bug yarn, which is a great yarn for nymph bodies or dry fly bodies. They do make a dry version that wicks water a little bit better than this, but this is okay. This thing floats like a cork anyways, so the dry stuff can help it float a little bit better, but there's something to be said about letting the abdomen of a fly rest into the water. So it's just all that deer hair spun up, and then this corded stuff, and then we got a little bit of hackle, some resin to hold it together, and then these antennae are just leftover black pieces of elk hair. And I do like to mix both elk and deer hair to get various sizes and diameter of hair, so it packs a little bit better too. That is something I've noticed when mixing them together. So either way, we're gonna get started, and I'm gonna show you how to tie it. It's a pretty simple one. Don't get spooked because it looks complex. It's pretty easy. Okay, so what I just popped in the vise here is a Ahrex dry long number 8. It is the 570 for quick searching on our website. It's a pretty stout hook. It's got kind of a longer shank, and it's got just the right profile for what I'm trying to do here. We're going to take some wraps of nano silk around this shank right here from Semperfli. You can use a couple different types of thread, but what is absolutely necessary is a thread that you can totally crank on and it won't pop. That is key for this fly. If you don't have a strong thread, you're going to be in trouble. So again, we're going to use this Semperfli dirty bug yarn right here. It's pretty cool when you're using little flies too. You can kind of unwind it. You can unwind the fibers here, and use half of a cord. So it's a very versatile material, one that we've had in the shop for a couple of years now, and it's pretty popular. It's a good one for sure. So we're going to tie right to the back of the shank right here, and then this will allow us, when we're ready, to pull the corded up chenille forward, and that's how we create the lower body. And so right here, what I have, without making a huge mess, is just a big mixed up pile of all those colors of hair. And so what we're going to do is I'm actually going to take one more snip of brown in there, just to make it a little bit more brown, to match the color a little bit better, because we all know we are pickier than trout. And especially if I'm tying a video, I should have the right color profile for you guys. So now that I've mixed this a little bit, we're going to tie it in. So you don't need to put your hair through a hair stacker or anything. You just need to make sure all the fibers are kind of going one direction, that's all. And you're going to do a lot of trimming, so it doesn't matter if you have like long stragglers, but getting them all kind of at the same length by doing this, like kind of make sure you have all of your fibers at a similar length, so that when you spin it, your fibers can be ample length. This is extra important when you do the end of the fly right now. As you can see right here, the end of the fly needs to, if I can grab it, the end of the fly needs to extend much more than the rest of the body. And that's why it's important to have some longer fibers towards the end. So once you have a clump of longer fibers, you are going to make a couple of loose wraps around them. If you miss a couple, it's okay. This is a messy fly to tie. But as you can see, these fibers splay out as you pull. And if you don't have a thick thread, you're going to be popping your thread all day, and it is going to be a major pain. And so we're not really going to spin this hair. See how I'm holding the end right here to make sure it's staying in place. The next wrap, we're going to be spinning hair. And so now what we're going to take is a hair packer, which makes life easy. This is one from Loon. And then we are going to push the hair back like this and kind of help force it back. We're not packing this one super tight. We're just kind of helping the fibers back, which you can actually kind of do it with your fingers. But if you do have a hair packer, I would utilize it. It helps a lot. But we're just making sure most of these fibers are being pushed back right now. And as you can see, these fibers are going to make the back of the wing right here. So we're making a little thread dam to kind of hold things in place and make sure things are kind of going backwards. All these stragglers right here, don't worry about it. They're going to be pushed back when you pack stuff. And now we're going to start spinning hair, which spinning hair, super easy if you've never done it. All you do is you take a big clump of hair, tie it on the shank, and then as you crank down on it and wrap around the shank, the hair spins around the shank. That's why they call it spinning. So we're going to take one wrap, two wrap, pull tight, and then see how as I spin, the hair kind of evens itself out and spins. And then I pack as tight as I can. Sometimes holding the back of the fly helps a little bit, but you don't want to jam those fibers up too much because you do need them to extend out still for the rear of the fly. But so that's how you tie a Goddard Caddis or pretty much any spun hair fly. Is you take a clump, spin it, thread dam, clump, spin it, thread dam. Same thing over and over. It's pretty easy. And as you can tell, based on this guy right here, the fibers that you need for the front of the fly are much shorter than the back, which makes life a lot easier. So you can save your longer fibers for the rear is more important. Okay, so let's pack a little bit up here. And the tighter you can pack it, the more waterproof it is too. That's the other thing. It just means you can pack more and more and more hair. And so this is a super, super old school style of pattern. Not a whole lot of new patterns coming out that utilize too much spinning of hair and hair packing. A lot of artistic flies, if you ever see those ones where it looks like a super realistic hummingbird, a lot of times that's like hair packing, or sometimes they do like little sunfish. Bass bugs are spun hair. Green machines and some bombers for like steelhead and Atlantic salmon. It's still popular, but those are all based on very old school patterns. So this is an old technique, and it's the way they used to get buoyancy before foam was really popular. So if you're kind of into old school fly fishing stuff, this is definitely a very cool technique that is kind of a lost art almost. So you can see we're getting close to the front now, and we've got a big mess of hair, which is exactly what we want. What we need to keep in mind right now is I've tied a ton of these, and if you're watching this, you probably haven't. So you need to leave space for hackle plus antenna if you want to add them in the front. And you just need to make sure you're leaving enough space for yourself. I don't need as much space, so I'm going to take space as you guys would. But just know that once you get better at it and you're comfortable, you can leave a little bit less space and have a smaller hackled section. Sometimes when I tie these two to make them look more realistic, you can put a couple of dark pieces of hair poking downwards to mimic legs. But either way, like I said, the tighter you can pack this stuff on there, the more buoyant you're going to be. So having a packer helps a lot, like this Loon one. I mean, you can just push, 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 and it stays where it's supposed to be. So now what we're going to do is try to make sure most of this stuff, we're going to make a nice thread dam to make sure nothing's really moving. If you got some ugly stragglers, don't worry about it. We'll trim them up. And now's the fun part, which you've probably seen videos. If you're watching this, you've probably seen videos of people shaving hair with like a razor for a fly like this, and that's something that I sometimes do, but for my specific style of it, I like to use scissors, which I need to grab my nice scissors. I don't know where they're right here. And so we're gonna trim out the body with scissors, or a razor if you have one. If you have either scissors or razors, either way, we're gonna take a straight cut on the bottom of the fly to the hook shank right down here. And like I said, it's kind of messy. It's a little bit less messy if you're using scissors. That's also why I like to do it. But you could tell, especially when it's trimmed really close down by the base of all these fibers. I'll turn the fly in a sec so you guys can look and we can zoom on it. But you could tell how tightly packed this is right in here. And this is what gives you so much buoyancy right here. This super tightly packed thing, and you can pack the whole thing this tight, but since it's an October caddis and it's a bigger fly, naturally the rest of the fly, the hair splays out and it's not as packed tightly. But as you, with smaller ones, you know, it can really be like a super tight cork that no water gets in. The beauty of this is it's a pretty realistic pattern, and generally if there's a fish that wants to eat a dry fly, in the area I'm fishing, they will just come up and hammer this, and it's normally not a small fish either. This pattern, there's a flaw to it. It's a good sized bug, and just like a big chubby, it's hard for a little fish to eat. They may slash at it, but it's a big fish searching bug, which isn't really a problem. But if you just want to catch loads of fish, you can size it down a little bit. Sometimes you can also have a crazy little fish just munch up a huge fly, which happens, but most of the time the fish that eat this are like, you know, 12, 14, 16, 18, however big you want to get, but they're on the more robust side. So what I'm doing is I'm trimming out like a little valley almost right in the bottom of this, a little divot that runs from hook shank to eye, and that's where this yarn is going to sit. But I'm also just trimming it as close as I can get, so I can get a lot of buoyancy through there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take this yarn up, and when you take it up, you're going to irritate some of the fibers, so you're going to have to do a little bit more trimming. But now we've got our chenille right here, and what we're going to do is we're going to cord it up super tight, and then we are going to tie it in just like this. And this is the body of your fly. And you can see now you've got a little body on the bottom, which most Goddard caddises don't have. The other thing too is if you don't trim this close enough, you lose your hook gap, which is a huge problem. So make sure you're trimming it where fish can actually eat it. And so the rest of the trimming this, I'll show you this way, is we're going to make like a triangle. So we're going to make a cut like this, up, and then as rotary vise is huge here, as I spin the vise here, we keep trim, and we start shaping this body right here. And then this creates this kind of triangle caddis shape. You want to make like a V from the front going to the back. And then you can kind of help some of these fibers lay down more for the rear wing. Yep, that looks nice. And so we're going to start trimming some of these ends. And then you can see some of these are coming down towards the water. We don't really want that. Caddis wings stay above the water. We're not trying to make a cripple here. This is an ovipositing female generally is what the fish get into, and they're not totally crash landing too much in a bad way. It's very calculated the way they're coming down on the water, so we're not trying to mimic a totally trashed bug here. And so we're gonna trim a little bit of this to get a nice taper, and you can see see now we've got like a nice caddisy looking bug with a big bushy back, and we have plenty of space to work up here, which was a big part of what you want to leave for yourself. And so now we've got the hard part done. Well, sometimes this can be difficult, but for the most part we're past the difficult part. So now what we need to do is we need to put on some hackle, which I've got some half saddle from Whiting in black. This is bronze, but any like dark color will do if you got brown, or I like black, but it's got to be like good size. It can't be, you don't want to be putting on a size 16 hackle on this. I would say this is probably like a 10, because you do want a little extra, you want some extra buoyancy here. So we're going to tie this feather in facing the back. You're going to strip the quill and tie it in just like this. And then if you would like antenna, go through your pile and find 2 evenly sized black pieces of elk hair, or another color if you want, but I think the black looks the best. And we are going to tie these in. I'll find one that kind of looks like the other one I'm using. Here, we got 2 pieces that look pretty close right here. And those will be our antennas. So we're going to tie one in on either side. And then if you want, you can do it like this, but I like to do it a little bit easier. You can put dubbing down. I don't like to do that on this particularly because it sops up water eventually. Even dry fly dubs eventually get wet. But what doesn't get wet is UV resin. Specifically, the medium UV resin will really help lock in a hackle feather and help you out quite a bit to make sure things stay where they're supposed to be. So what I'm going to do now, once I have these antennae where I want them to be, I'm just being picky right now. Fish don't care that much. But once I have this done, and I'm going to trim this little bit right here that you can see is getting in my way. Cool, so that's where you should be right now. If you want antennas, check the antennas on. You got your hackle right here. And then you need Solarez medium. Or if you're a loon guy, you would need loon thick. I don't like the loon stuff as much as Solarez, at least. It's definitely worse resins than loon, but I think Solarez is king. That's why I always use it. So we're going to take a little dollop of it right on here. Don't need a lot, but we're going to want to make sure it's kind of on this whole thing right here. And that will hold our feather in just the way we want it. And it won't sop up water like how dubbing will. So we're going to take close wraps. The closer you can wrap this, the better. Got to move your thread to the front. And you can see it's kind of just biting into that resin right now, which means it's not going anywhere. And we're going to take one wrap to the top to secure that feather, and then do a couple more to make sure it's not going anywhere. If you got nice scissors like these, do not use them at this point. You don't want to get resin on them, so take your beater scissors and snip the little tag end of this hackle. Be sure to not trim the antenna that you worked so hard on putting in. And then at this point, I like to cure the resin. Oh, my light's super low. I like to cure the resin to make sure nothing comes undone. And so that will give me peace of mind that this thing's not going to come unraveled on me. And then we whip finish and we're done. And you got an awesome October caddis that is my confidence pattern when I'm searching new water in low light conditions, or especially right in the evening. If you've never fished for these bugs, by the time this video is out, I will have published an article on the October caddis. It should, I think we're posting this next week, so it would have been over the weekend, so you can go on the blog and look. And I will, if you want, I'll link it below in the video so you guys can find it. But if you want to just look up Oregon Fly Fishing blog, it's there. But you can get all this stuff online at caddisflyshop.com. Tie yourself up a fantastic realistic October caddis pattern that the fish just cannot resist. So like I said, shop online at Caddisfly Shop. If you're local, we'll see you in the shop to pick this stuff up. We got it all on the shelves. Thanks.